true prospect who may have fallen a bit under the radar on the national level, but on the local scene, everyone knows who he is. At Manfredo's gym in Pawtucket, Rhode Island, he has given world-class fighters great work, including former two-time world title challenger Peter Manfredo Jr., also Edwin Rodriguez, who's coming off a nice win on HBO last week, and even Demetrius Andrade, the top
Brinkley.
10. Yeah, Jesse Brinkley, former world title challenger. Thomas FALOWO has given all of these guys some good work, and you only hear great things come out of the gym with him. And you were talking right before we started here, Pat, from a matchmaking perspective, it's been very difficult to find opponents for Thomas FALOWO. Perhaps him going the distance after those 4 consecutive knockouts to begin his career in his most recent fight against the sub-500 Born God Washington actually was a favor to him and his promotional team because it proved that he was human.
You know, he did have a very tough fight against Born God Washington, who I think at the time his record was 2-9. But Born God is the type of guy who will take a fight. If you call him and say you're going to be in the ring in 12 minutes, he'll be there 11 minutes late, but he'll be there. And he's a tough fighter, and Thomas went the distance with him because Born God just wasn't going away that night. He was tough. Thomas still had to have thrown 500 punches in a 4-round fight. But Thomas is a tough kid. He's been in there in the ring with Peter Manfredo Sr. for years and years and years. I remember when Peter Manfredo Jr. was training for Saki Obika in 2009, a world title fight. I remember Peter Sr. was bragging about how Peter was getting such great sparring work from a kid, Thomas. Come to find out, that's Thomas FALOWO, who has been in there with the big boys for quite some time. And now he is in there with Troy ARTIS from the Bronx, New York. Again, all of his fights have been in either New Jersey or New York. You want to talk about Thomas's record, combined record of his opponents, 10-18. Troy ARTIS has never fought an opponent with a losing record.
And it shows right here in the first round, ARTIS is definitely not fighting like he's coming into someone's hometown to give them good work.
Not only is Troy 3-2 with 2 knockouts, he's never been knocked out in those 2 fights. So we'll see tonight whether Thomas is prepared to go another 4 rounds, throw a lot of punches, because Thomas, his goal is to throw 100 punches around. Can he throw another 400 or 500 punches and win on the scorecards, or can he be the first fighter to ever take out Troy ARTIS in a professional boxing fight?
Nice left hook by Thomas FALOWO. Going back to that Born God Washington bout for Thomas FALOWO, where he won a 4-round unanimous decision over Washington. In retrospect, that decision win looks a lot better than it did at the time going the distance with Born God, because Born God Washington has since gone on to defeat some previously undefeated opponents.
30 seconds remaining here in round number 1. Thomas FALOWO in the white trunks, Troy ARTIS in the black trunks. And certainly, even in this first round alone, you can see this has been probably the toughest round of FALOWO's career. He's really dominated every fight up until this point, and now you see he has Troy up against the ropes, trying to hang on in the last 14 seconds here. Doesn't really look phased, just really caught in a flurry here from Thomas FALOWO. We know stamina's not going to be an issue with the soldier. We'll see how Troy ARTIS fares in the second round. And going forward, a little slip there, heads into the corner. It doesn't really look phased, but certainly a first round that you have to believe went to the soldier FALOWO as he heads back into the corner for some advice from Peter Manfredo Sr. Yeah,
a good closing 30 seconds to the opening round for Thomas FALOWO. He had ARTIS covering up, and even if those punches weren't landing cleanly, FALOWO was still outworking him. He then hit ARTIS with a straight right hand that seemed to do some damage, and then the visual of ARTIS almost falling towards the end of the round, whether that was caused by a punch, a slip, or a combination of the both. It was a very good way to close out the round for FALOWO. And heading into the final minute of that first round, I don't think you would have been outside the realm of being sane if you had ARTIS winning the round, but I think FALOWO wins it, particularly in the last 30 seconds.
And that's certainly going to be the issue going forward for ARTIS. Is he can hang in there possibly for the first 2 minutes of the round, but Thomas is a guy who the first 30 seconds and the last 30 seconds is at the same pace, whether it's round 1 or 4. We're going to see a test here on ARTIS, his endurance and his stamina here as the rounds continue to go on. As Thomas certainly looks to be the busier fighter, the more active fighter, and control the pace of this fight. But even coming right out the gate here, Troy ARTIS ready to throw punches here with Thomas FALOWO. Thomas, a few times when he backs up after getting punched, it looks like he almost loses his balance into the ropes.
And ARTIS is not afraid to roughhouse with FALOWO. We've seen that here in round 2.
interesting that in all actually five of Thomas's victories, he's been in cruise control the entire fight, knowing he was going to win after that first round. Right now, Omar KO Artis is giving Thomas all he can handle here. A stiff left hook right there coming back at FALOWO after a flurry of punches.
And let's not count out one of the facts, one of the characteristics of Thomas FALOWO fights that the fans most enjoy. He's a guy in good fights, whether it be against Zach Thomas, whether it be against Odias Dumazil, or my favorite Thomas FALOWO fight from a personal standpoint, Greg McCoy. He's always in there ready to bang.
Here, Peter Manfredo Sr. yelling from the corner saying, work him on the edge. And you gotta love broadcasting fights when Peter Manfredo's in the corner, because you can almost hear him over your broadcast partner. Peter very vocal in the corner there as you see FALOWO picking up his effort a little more.
Manfredo Sr. very happy with that overhand right from FALOWO that did seem to have an adverse effect on his opponent, Troy Artis.
And you can see Artis' hands beginning to fall once he gets hit a few times. See if Thomas is able to sneak in a punch and catch Troy by surprise. Now Thomas up against the ropes as Artis leans in and ties it up momentarily. The ref decides to split it up with 36 seconds to go here in the second round.
I know it's a school nightmare, man.
Closing seconds here of round number 2. Thomas lands another punch to the crowd's pleasure. Artis drops his hand, and Thomas just can't get in there quick enough. He had an opening. It's only round number 2. Still more rounds here for Thomas to go back to work. End of round number 2 here at the Twin River Event Center. Thomas FALOWO and Troy Omar KO Artis going at it here in a pretty good fight so far. And certainly I'd have to say this is probably Thomas's toughest test to date.
Thomas FALOWO passing thus far. However, I have him ahead 2 rounds to none over Troy Artis as we'll be entering the 3rd round. But it hasn't been like Artis has not been without his moments during the course of those 2 rounds. But nevertheless, FALOWO certainly the one in command.
And Pete, if you're in the corner right now with Thomas FALOWO, he's throwing more punches and he's attempting to control his fight for the most part, which I think he is. What are you telling him right now? I mean, he certainly can't throw any more punches.
You let Thomas FALOWO know that he has been in with the better opposition inside the gym. He's been training for this fight for 6 weeks, whereas Artis replaced FALOWO's original opponent, Ron Reeves, about 2 weeks ago, so FALOWO should have the edge in terms of conditioning. This is FALOWO's fight to win or lose.
What's impressed me most about Troy Artis is he hasn't backed down at all from FALOWO. At the opening bell of the first 3 rounds, he goes right at him. And whether he's getting punched or he's on the defense, he's always ready to hang in there and keep banging with Thomas FALOWO. He's certainly showing that whether he looked him up on YouTube or not, he really doesn't care.
And I'll use the term I used to describe Carlos Hernandez's record earlier on in relation to Troy Artis, who's doing some good work as he briefly has FALOWO up against the ropes, still has FALOWO up against the ropes. Artis has a very honest record. That 3-win, 2-loss, 1-draw record, never having been stopped, speaks to the level of opposition he has been competing with. This is a very evenly matched fight.
Not only that, but every one of Troy's opponents has had a winning record, as opposed to FALOWO, who's never fought an opponent with a winning record. The combined record for those opponents, 10-18, although it obviously is a little skewed because of Borngal Washington, his last opponent, who was 2-9. Just about halfway through round number 3, Thomas and Troy Artis, not too much action in this round compared to the first 2. But still Thomas putting in a workman's like effort, throwing his multiple punches here in this round. Still here is head trainer Peter Manfredo Sr. in the corner, cheering him on. Let's go, let's go. He wants FALOWO to pick up the pace even more and apply more pressure on Troy ARTIS.
That might have been FALOWO's best succession of punches during this fight. That left followed by a right. And now it looks like ARTIS maybe fatiguing just a tad. Nice right hand from FALOWO, and I think ARTIS might find himself in trouble for the first time.
ARTIS not only dropped his hands, but he also dropped his head, showing an opening here for Thomas the Soldier FALOWO. See if he can get through the defense here of ARTIS, and it may look like that. Look like a wide open gap has now closed a little bit as ARTIS now gained his composure, put his hand back up, and Thomas has to go back to work here. Final 14 seconds, Thomas ready to unload, but ARTIS doing another good job of tying up and almost pushing FALOWO back into the ropes.
I don't think almost, I think quite literally. However, that was the best round of this fight for Thomas FALOWO, and his many supporters in attendance here at the Twin River are well aware of it, judging by the reaction.
What the fuck up already, man? This is bullshit. Bang ass, man.
You can hear Troy ARTIS' corner certainly not happy with how this fight's gone on. Hopefully the gentlemen over at FightStream have a censor button if we're listening to the corner over here for Troy, the KO artist ARTIS, and his corner's certainly very upset with the way this fight's gone, saying wake up and wake up. But I tell you, Pete, it's gonna be tough to wake up when your opponent won't stop punching.
CES takes example.
Laying back to listen into the corner, it appears that Troy ARTIS' corner wants to see him dig to the body a little bit more and throw uppercuts on the inside.
Here we go for round number 4. FALOWO in the white shorts, ARTIS in the black shorts. FALOWO finds himself in the corner, but if anybody at the New England scene can punch their way out of a corner, it certainly is Thomas FALOWO. As you see, he gets right out of danger right away. And ARTIS early on looks like his hands are dropping a little more than they were earlier in that first 2 rounds. Maybe fatigue setting in, and of course all the punches FALOWO's thrown could be starting to take effect on the arms and of the gloves there of Troy ARTIS. FALOWO with a perfect record, 5-0 with 4 knockouts. ARTIS 3-2-1 with 2 knockouts, having never been stopped in his 2 losses. Not showing any signs of fear here against one of the most highly touted prospects in all of New England, Thomas the Soldier FALOWO. More than halfway through round number 4. Thomas not throwing as many punches as he did in the first 3 rounds here, Pete.
Thomas FALOWO certainly had ARTIS hurt in the 3rd round. FALOWO actually boxing a little bit more here in the 4th. You see him circling, flicking out jabs here and there. In between the 3rd and the 4th round, we saw Troy ARTIS' corner asking him to dig to the body and throw uppercuts. I think ARTIS snuck in a nice left hand there, but Thomas FALOWO able to shake it off.
And a nice treat here for New England fight fans. A Thursday night boxing series here at the Twin River Event Center, brought to you by Jimmy Birchfield's Classic Entertainment and Sports, the matchmaker for the fight. Rich Capiello, who really are spoiling fans here who can pay as little as $35 to get in and watch these great fights on a Thursday night. And Jimmy Birchfield and the CES team really treating New England boxing fans to a great series here in 2012 as the round comes to an end here between Thomas FALOWO and his opponent Troy ARTIS. Ready to head into the 5th round here, Pete.
Yeah, and this is a big moment in the career of Thomas FALOWO. It may not seem that significant, however it is. Thomas FALOWO has never been beyond 4 rounds. We've talked about his conditioning. Let's see how it plays into a 6-round fight. And taking a look at the crowd here at the Twin River, one thing I really like about New England fight fans and fans that come out to these CES shows, particularly here on a weeknight, Pat, is that sometimes on these casino shows, particularly in Las Vegas, you see fans not come into the venue until right before the main event begins, and they sort of could care less about the undercard. They're out playing blackjack or playing slots. This right here is the 4th fight of the night, and we have a substantial amount of people in attendance here at the Twin River enjoying this fight between Thomas FALOWO and Troy ARTIS.
Yeah, these fans really being spoiled for paying as little as $35 to get in here and watching some great night of boxing. Again, Thomas FALOWO, Troy ARTIS here. It looked like FALOWO may have got caught with a pretty good hook there by ARTIS, and his cornerman told him to pick it up, and right now ARTIS coming out with the biggest flurry here on the fight, and Thomas not backing down, trading punches right here towards the center of the ring. And what a way to start this round if you're Troy ARTIS, just go right at him.
Yeah, but mano a mano. He comes out with what you refer to as his biggest flurry of the fight. Thomas FALOWO responds back with something even more ferocious.
Good way to start round number 5, and the first time FALOWO has ever been in round number 5.
Providing us with beverage of some sort.
See FALOWO now trying to work the uppercut as Troy ARTIS really isn't showing any open for any hooks or jabs, so FALOWO working the uppercut here. Got to be careful though when you get in that close to ARTIS, you don't get hit with an accidental headbutt there, Pete.
And we saw that come into play in our opening bout tonight between Carlos Hernandez and Robert Brendo Hunt. Look at Thomas FALOWO digging the left shoulder into the chest of Troy ARTIS in attempt to create distance. Thomas FALOWO not afraid to get physical inside the ring. Nice right uppercut from Thomas FALOWO.
Minute 22 to go here in round number 5 of a scheduled 6 between the soldier Thomas FALOWO and Troy ARTIS. Troy now sitting in the center of the ring, throwing punches here at FALOWO, who has really controlled the pace of this fight and attempted to pick up his pace here and perhaps even put enough pressure where he can knock ARTIS out. But Troy not backing down, not showing any signs of being damaged.
Nice left hooks coming courtesy of Thomas FALOWO.
You gotta think here, Pete, this fight's gonna become frustrating for Thomas. Throwing so many punches, not being able to land as many as he'd want, and his power punch is really not having much effect here on Troy ARTIS.
If it is frustrating for Thomas FALOWO, and I'm not so sure that it is, I think it's something he has to get used to. Thomas FALOWO started off his career 4-0 with 4 knockouts, which may have led him to believe that he's a knockout puncher. Where his power certainly is substantial, Pat, I don't think he's a knockout puncher. I think he's a volume puncher. I think that is the way that he'll be described more often than not as his professional career progresses. I see Thomas FALOWO more in the vein of fighters like Paul Williams and Kasim Umar than I do, say, a Mike Tyson or Roberto Duran.
Ready to go into the 6th and final round between Troy ARTIS and Thomas FALOWO. And you saw it after the bell there. ARTIS snuck in an extra punch, much to the dismay there of FALOWO, who literally stared at him the entire way to the corner.
And Thomas FALOWO does not have eyes that I would want to stare, that I would want staring back at me. A very menacing glance from Thomas FALOWO when he's looking at fighters, whether it be in the pre-fight instructions, the weigh-ins, or at moments like that where artists might have trying to sneak in a little something extra toward the end of the round.
And more or less the fight we expected to see is at least going into the 6th round, as Artis has never been knocked out. He's 3-2-1 with 2 knockouts of his own. FALOWO 5-0 with 4 knockouts. And you can see FALOWO with that menacing stare you just mentioned, Pete, as he comes right out the corner, still continuing to stare back at Artis. Good fight so far, Pete. I do think that Thomas is well ahead on the scorecards here. Artis may be needing a knockout or knockdown, maybe, to perhaps win this fight in Thomas's home state of Rhode Island. However, it's always tough to leave it up to the judges in a high-paced fight like this.
Well, I think that ARTIS would definitely need a knockout in order to win this fight. I have Thomas FALOWO ahead 5 rounds to none, and there's really no question in my mind that FALOWO has won each and every round of this fight thus far.
It looks like a lot of time, Pete, when Thomas throws that right hand, it almost gets stuck on the shoulder there of Artis. The way he ducks and is able to avoid those punches, Thomas getting a lot of punches missing on the side of Artis' head. Thomas still not letting up, throwing as many punches as he can. He's been doing it for years. We mentioned in the opening, helping world-class fighters like Peter Manfredo, Jesse Brinkley, and others who have walked in and graced the Manfredo gym sparring sessions. And Thomas has been involved in just about all of them. And you can tell here by the volume of punches and his stamina here that he certainly has no problems going 6 rounds, which I'm sure Manfredo and the rest of the camp expected that Thomas could do, but I'm sure at least they're a little relieved to know that he can do this in an actual fight.
FALOWO was Manfredo Jr.'s chief sparring partner for his WBC World Title Challenge against Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. earlier this year. Not unaccustomed to going 12 rounds in the gym, but just like you said, Pat, it's nice to see that he can go at least 6 here under the bright lights at the Twin River Casino.
Under a minute to go here. Thomas just continues to punch. Big miss there by Artis. And FALOWO really, if he connected with that uppercut coming back, that could have been serious damage. As you see, he connects there on a nice 1-2 as Artis' hands just continue to drop after every punch that is thrown. FALOWO now covering up. Even though you still hear Manfredo Sr. yelling, work, work. He doesn't want to see his fighter let up for a single second. FALOWO just continues to fend off with a jab. Final seconds here to go. And Pete, we're going to go to the scorecards here in a very hard-fought battle between Thomas the Soldier FALOWO and Troy Omar KO Artis.
Here's what we learned in this fight about Thomas FALOWO. He can go 6 rounds. He can take what his opponent throws at him, take that and throw it back at them even harder. And above all else, we knew this coming in, but it's nice to have it confirmed once again before our eyes. I don't think Thomas FALOWO will be in anything ever remotely resembling a boring or dull fight. Thomas FALOWO is the type of fighter that once he gets to that TV level, a la ESPN or hopefully Showtime and HBO, him and his people want, he's going to be a lot of fun to watch on television. I'm sure the network's going to enjoy him.
Yeah, and it's nice to see a guy like FALOWO who can throw the same amount of punches in round number 1 as he can in round number 6.
Jimmy Birchfield would like to welcome Glenn Cello of the famous, world-famous Cello Restaurant of Rhode Island, one of Jimmy Birchfield's favorite restaurants. Our guest here at ringside, Glenn Cello. Welcome tonight, Glenn.
See CES boxing and CES MMA promoter Jimmy Birchfield Sr. standing in the center of the ring. Good to see that Jimmy has branched off a company that has been going for 35 years here in the state of Rhode Island and all throughout Connecticut. He's promoted shows from Japan to Italy to little old Rhode Island, and now he branches out to MMA, which has had some great success here in the New England area. So Jimmy, although he's been at it a long time, not afraid to alter his company to be successful And again, a Thursday night fight series at Twin River. You really can't get any better than this if you're a fan here in New England.
Birchfield's also dealt with the entertainment aspect of classic entertainment sports, promoting what I believe was his first concert in quite some time last year here at the Twin River Event Center. I was here. I had a great time.
And let's not forget, he's the 2011 Northeast MMA Promoter of the Year, a guy who's been boxing for 35 years. Enough about that already. We're going to head down to the ring to ring announcer Bill Carpenter for the decision.
Ladies and gentlemen, after 6 tough rounds of boxing, we go to the judges' scorecards for your official decision. Judge Ed Scungio scores the bout 58-56. Judges Wayne Lima and Steve Schultz both see the bout 59-55. All 3 judges scoring for your winner by unanimous decision, and still undefeated, Thomas the Soldier FALOWO.